As if that wasn't enough, there was another particularly daunting prospect. Malala Yousafzai, who'd come over from Pakistan after being shot for standing up for education for girls, was now a pupil there. Then, the very week before speech day, she'd become the youngest ever winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. I tried to protest with the head and insist that Malala should do the keynote speech, but I think, being totally honest, they're a bit embarrassed to biff me off. So, instead of having an amazing talk about world peace and the importance of education for women, the poor girls, staff and governors and parents instead had to listen to me going on about soap. Now, my journey to owning the cosmetics company is unconventional to say the least, and there are loads of funny stories along the way for sure. But I often think back to what the original reason was why I was asked to speak then, and perhaps here now today. And my conclusion is, it's not actually about organic soap at all. But before I go on to that, let me start at the beginning. Looking back, life-changing moments often become a snapshot memory frozen in time. For Little Soap Company, those moments were so vivid and almost larger than life. My grandmother always used soap, pure, proper soap, the sort that doesn't make your skin go tight and it lasts ages in the dish. She had stashes of the stuff stockpiled in their house, so it was without question, as we grew up, we always used her soap. Liquid soaps hit the market, but they totally bypassed us as a family. And it was only after Granny died and the stash was fast dwindling that I realised how hard it was to buy chemical-free soap over here. To me, the skincare market is so akin to the food industry. Less ingredients is more. Just as Jamie Oliver proved you only need a handful of ingredients to make fast food, or you only need 3 key ingredients to make a loaf of bread, the same is true with soap, or indeed any natural skincare product. We're awash with chemicals in our day-to-day lives, and more people are choosing to move away from it. As more and more people are developing allergies and intolerances, never has the need for pure synthetic-free soap been more relevant. For me, my life changed the day I nonchalantly bought a bar of handmade soap at a village fete. That single purchase, plucked from a shiny yellow horse bucket in a Cotswold orchard on a sunny afternoon, was soon to create the unexpected eureka moment that formed the beginnings of the Little Soap Company. Getting home that evening, I eagerly took out my new purchase and read the label as I turned the shower on. Coconut oil, olive oil, palm oil, fragranced only with pure essential oils. It certainly ticked every box pureness-wise, and it wasn't a combination I tried to make in my series of total failures on the Argo over the past few years. Moments later, watching the lather form was the realisation, this doesn't belong in a horse bucket. This belongs on the shelves of Waitrose. Questions soon sparked. Why was this sort of soap confined to sporadic farmers markets and craft shows? Why wasn't pure organic soap like this commonplace on the supermarket shelf? It just seemed totally bizarre. I decided there and then, I was still in the shower, that despite knowing anything about it, I'd somehow create a company which would make the best organic proper soap that was possible. That I'd go and disrupt the marketplace by offering consumers a choice. Pure soap shouldn't only be available in specialist shops and online. And this was the crux of the matter, I needed to make it affordable. I needed to make it affordable so it could be sold in the supermarkets. If I could eventually get the volumes up, we could make it accessible to everyone, and it could be part of everybody's weekly shop. The process to do just that, though, wasn't quite as easy as it sounded. With legislation and safety assessments to read up on, take on board, and it's a fast learning curve, and also there's a physical cap on making an artisan product. Nevertheless, the Little Soap Company was born. In the first couple of years, the company was a passionate hobby business alongside my real job, as I slowly created a brand that was transparent and easily understood. I did every farmer's market and craft show going to try and get the word out there, and from the start, it was apparent where this new love was taking me. My analysis of why it wasn't available in supermarkets was that people, the customers, didn't actually understand the difference between synthetic soaps and beauty bars that were available cheaply, made to mimic real soap, versus the real McCoy, what I was making. So I needed to educate and communicate succinctly and clearly. Once you explain it to somebody properly, they really get it instantly, and it's a complete no-brainer why you'd use traditional soap over chemicals. So communication from the start has been key. If I could convince the supermarket buyers they needed to give choice on the shelves, then I could convince the soap buying public, as suddenly there was a choice. That was my simple strategy. But I needed to start small and get known. I built a small, trusty tribe of followers before I knocked on any of the big boys' doors. I needed to check the products worked, and more so that they were liked. I started locally with Warner Budgeons. It's a small supermarket chain of 6 stores in the Cotswolds. I had to badger, charm, and beg my way into that first meeting. And when I did, the buyer laughed at my naivety when I admitted I'd only been trading for 10 weeks. He literally said, "Come back when you're a bit bigger and when you've got some barcodes, love." 9 o'clock the next day, I was back in his office with barcodes and ready to roll. It threw him, and I could see tenacity was always going to play a key part. Just never take no for an answer. So with barcodes and a regular order in place with Warner's, I felt the next stop was Waitrose. I was 6 months in, ambitious, but I was convinced if we could be in Warner's, we could be in Waitrose. Now, with a background in the media, I'm not used to emails and calls being ignored, and I became slightly mad, like a dog with a bone, calling and emailing the poor Waitrose buyer until she finally gave me a meeting. I knew if I could get in front of her, I could explain what the soap industry was currently offering, how my soap differed, and why they needed to stop me. It worked, and I was offered space for 4 of my handmade bars in 8 local Waitrose stores. I'd only asked for Cheltenham, so I was thrilled. The stepping stone provided the business with the springboard it needed. No longer was I the simple hobby soap maker, but one that was on the shelves of one of the highest regarded supermarkets in the country. Handmaking for 8 stores was just about doable, but almost a year later, Waitrose contacted me, asking me to supply their top-selling stores in the Midlands and Cheshire, and it highlighted a blindingly obvious problem for the expansion of the business. It had been curing and storing thousands of bars. It would turn my beloved hobby business into a sweatshop. It was a challenge, and for a few months it remained unanswered. The demand was there. People loved the soap, and strangers were buying it. But to hand make it was totally impractical, and furthermore, the gross profit and margins just weren't right as a business, as a buyer, or indeed actually a consumer. My aim to expand, let alone make the product accessible to all, was suddenly flawed. Added to this, 18 months into trading, I hit a massive legal wrangle regarding trademarks and had to change the name of the business. I'd originally called it the Naked Soap Company. As ever though, I decided to see what could have been a horrendous setback as a blessing in disguise and just got on with it, renaming to the Little Soap Company, but with thousands of pounds to recoup for lost packaging, new label replacements, and literally starting all over again, not to mention the potential legal fees that all came with it. However, things always happen for a reason, and with the name change under my belt, I was often asked to talk about my journey and the business so far at various conferences. So 2011 was the next snapshot moment. I was talking at the annual WIRE, the Women in Royal Enterprise Conference, and specifically talking about the problems facing artisan producers and how hard it is to upscale. Unbeknownst to me, a Tesco buyer was in the audience. To cut a long story short, they believed in me, the product, and gave me an order for 4 lines. 40,000 bars to go into 45 regional Tesco's across the Midlands, Worcestershire and Gloucestershire. 40,000 bars. How on earth could I afford to make, cure and package and distribute them? But 40,000 bars, how could I afford not to? Now, 1 in 3 people in the UK shop in Tesco. There's the potential to grow into their 2,500 other stores. The contract, or rather gift as I always termed it, was the turning point for the company. I gave up my part-time safety blanket work that I was doing to concentrate on the soap full-time. I had to find a factory to partner with who'd be able to make my soap organically, to recipe, and to the quality that I demanded. I knew if I could crack this challenge, it would open doors to other larger orders, and my ambition to get pure natural soap out to everybody, and now affordable, on the supermarket shelf really was becoming a reality. I decided there'd be 2 ranges, the original artisan handmade range that I continue to make, and this new commercial everyday range. 4 lines, 10,000 of each, launched regionally in Tesco's in 2012. It was their first organic beauty product, let alone soap. Due to the volumes, I managed to get the bars to under £4, and they're an instant hit. 6 months later, we had our first national launch into all 264 Waitrose stores. It was their best beauty launch and their fastest selling bar soap, and we followed in booths later that year. It all happened really quickly from then. The buyers loved the provenance and the transparency of my plight. 2013 and 2014, we went national into Tesco's, Boots and Sainsbury's. Again, for all of them, it was their first organic soap. Now I need to mention, from conception to this point, I worked from my laptop at the kitchen table, alone, and I was going slightly mad. However, I needed help desperately, as there weren't enough hours in the day. Having been invited onto the Goldman Sachs programme that year, I devised a plan to move off the kitchen table. It was important to find a building that fitted Little's aspirations. It had to be quirky, it couldn't be on an industrial estate, it had to be in the Cotswolds, and it had to be somewhere I was happy to drive to each day. That wasn't my mother heckling. By delivering 9 new exclusive rose geranium and lavender lines to Waitrose of our organic bar soaps, liquid hand soaps, foam and body wash and bubble bath. Later this year, we're going to be adding shower gel and the latest craze of organic pet shampoo and matching spritz for your pooch. Now, aware of how booked up our little soap schools were getting and wanting to make natural green beauty accessible to everybody, we decided to create your own kits, which take the soap schools out of Broadway and onto your kitchen table with everything you need to make your own balms and cold processed soap. Our next big project is candles, natural candles. I was horrified to discover that most natural candles are incredibly ambiguous and actually have synthetic fragrance added to the essential oils to make them smell more pungent. How the consumer is unwittingly breathing in and rubbing such chemicals into their skin just infuriates me, and we go back to education and communication again being the key. So the company is poised for great things, with the ambition to create a full range of human and pet soap products and spin-offs, which will be stocked nationally up and down the country in supermarkets, garden centres, chemists, hotels and airlines, as well as doing the same in international territories. So in a nutshell, this is the Little Soap Company, and it's going and it's evolving. But going back to the start, what is it really all about? My learnings and my message isn't actually about soap at all. It's about the importance of being true to yourself. At the end of the day, I've only created a very small company that makes soap, one of hundreds of thousands of products that line our supermarket shelves in the UK. And in the grand scheme of things, I'm a very small dot on the landscape. So why is it important? And this is what I think. I think it's important because people told me I couldn't do it, and that spurred me on. It's important because it's been a huge life lesson about being true to yourself. It took me until my early 30s to realise that whilst I might not be traditionally academic, I am a doer, and that actually is a virtue in itself. The Women Who Awards give us the chance this afternoon to stop and pause, to stop and think about the woman in business, the woman in the community, the woman entrepreneur. The other reason why today is important is because we're celebrating each other's success, and that is empowering to us all. The one thing I can categorically say has helped both me and the business grow is my close circle of friends. If you don't already, I advise you all to surround yourself with other women that you admire and respect. Don't be critical when mistakes happen and your peers falter, but raise each other up and say we're doing it. Sometimes it is 1 step forward and 2 steps back, but we're doing it, and we should celebrate all of our success in doing that. So to sum up, decide what you want and be yourself. Be bold in the steps you take to realise your vision. Surround yourself with good people who share and support your aim, and don't let anyone tell you you can't do something that you believe is important. Just go out and do it anyway.